Think it's time, Dylan. Let's go ahead and officially get started with our presentation. We're looking forward to learning about how to value your business, how to sell it. But Dylan, let's get to know you for a moment before we turn it over to you, if you don't mind. I understand that you're here today in the role with Baton Market because of your grandfather. He had a business himself, and something happened with that. Could you talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's awesome to be here. This is a picture of me with the head of hair that I wish I had. Maybe had a little bit more before we started the company. Um, but yeah, I think I'm here for a lot of reasons. A key one being that my grandpa was a successful doctor in Long Island, New York. And he was running a medical practice. And when it came time to retire, he tried to sell that company and couldn't find a good successor, and ultimately had to shut it down, which left his patients with nowhere to go. And I think also just wasn't the right cap for his legacy and what he had done as a doctor. So that was like a key thing that kind of pushed me to focus on this. Um, and then I actually, funny enough, one of my good buddies had quit their job in tech sales to buy a commercial cleaning business in Nashville. So I've been adjacent to the space and thinking about how strong of businesses, commercial cleaning businesses are, yeah, for like 4 years now, which might be a unique thing.
Did it surprise you with your grandfather's his practice that he couldn't sell it, that it should have been easier?
I mean, you would think that if you have all of these recurring clients and customers in any business, right, that it should be simple to have some continued legacy. And it wasn't the case for him. And it's still, unfortunately, not the case for a lot of people who think about selling their business. It's a really hard process. Before Baton, I sold my previous business to a Fortune 500 company. My co-founders in that company had sold their previous business to another Fortune 500 company. So we had like a rock star
Mm.
team, and we ended up getting it done, but it was still super challenging. And it's really hard for any small business owner, which also, Jeff, makes sense, right? Because
Mhm.
my grandpa spent his whole life being the best doctor that he could be. He didn't know anything about cash flow multiples and how to prepare your books in a way that's appealing to buyers. Um, and we started Baton because, again, a lot of different reasons, but one of them being that the current options out there to do this are just so bad. There's some great people in the space, but there's a lot of really bad folks, and very few organizations that support in the training of people who sell and value businesses.
Thank you for that. Just a couple more questions before we get started with your presentation. I want to know, is this a business you own or is it more of a mission? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, our mission is to make it so anybody can be a small business owner, and then this is the next great asset class for everyone. Um, we're flexible on how we get there. We're inflexible on getting that done. And it's amazing. My last company was a food delivery company, food delivery and production. Um, and I think it was great, and the team was really smart. We were solving hard problems. But I convinced myself that the mission didn't matter that much, and it was more about the work. And I think that's true to an extent. Um, but it's been really amazing the team that we've been able to build at Baton. As of this week, we're 33 people. We were 13 at the start of the year, so it's been a crazy year. Um, Everyone's really bought into what we're doing, which has been super, super exciting.
So it sounds like Baton is performing very well. Things are happening.
Yeah, I have it here, but we're selling 2 to 3 businesses a week right now, which is crazy. Again, it's part of the reason why I think I've lost all the hair that I had in this picture. Um, we've raised over $15 million from top investors, a bunch of VCs, including the CEO of Zillow. We've kind of always said like, hey, let's be the Zillow for small businesses. So we raised from the former CEO of Zillow, exec folks at Compass, Bloomberg's venture fund, Obvious Ventures, Giant Ventures, and a bunch of other really awesome folks. Not to say it's not extremely challenging and hard, and we're working super hard every day to keep that going. But we do have a great track record now, and a really incredible team.
Well, hopefully those who are on the webinar, if they're thinking of selling, they'll talk to you afterwards and get some more advice from you. But Today, we're going to have you present on how to sell your business for top dollar. Start preparing today. Are you ready to rock this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, it's all yours. See you at the end
Let's
for the Q&A.
Awesome, Jeff. Thanks so much. Um, okay, everyone who's listening, I'm gonna ask a favor that you all type into the chat. I have some questions that I'm gonna ask. I can't see you all, and I feel like this will be a lot more fun if you all engage. And Tara will give you all a prize. Tara's my colleague who's also on the call. Um, who wants to be running their business next month? If you want to be running your business next month, put me in the chat. Nice. Okay, we got 3, 4, 5. Cool. I mean, Tara, all these other people are really good leads that aren't putting me in the chat because we can help them sell their business. Um, okay, great. I don't want to, but I have to. I get that, Brad. Um, uh, I think yeah, if you are gonna be running your business next month, you could also put me in the chat. Okay, great, great. Um, who wants to be running their business next year? Um, me also. I'm still having fun. Part-time with a little more golf also makes sense. Okay. Anybody else? Yep, me. Great. Great. What about 10 years? Anybody? 10 years? I agree. I'm like, maybe. Carrie, yeah, this is great. I love the nose. This is awesome. That's awesome. 10 years seems like a long time. Um, I probably didn't need to ask this, but I assume nobody wants to be running their business when they're 90 years old. Um, So, with that being said, who is confident that they know how much their business is worth? If anyone's confident that they know how much their business is worth, just put me in the chat. Cool. Crickets. That's great. Um, and who has an exit plan? Anybody? Makes sense. Partial. That's great. That's great. Um, Carrie, that's why I'm here. I'm like, we're gonna figure it all out today, and I'm gonna tell you how much your business is worth and give you an exit plan, and we'll all retire tomorrow. Um, So this is generally true, right? It's always shocking to me whenever I do these speeches and conversations. Um, Everybody says they don't want to be running their business in 10 years, and definitely not in when they're 90 years old. But nobody thinks about how much their business is worth, and what their exit plan is going to be. You're in good company. Only 2% of business owners, and this number might even be lower. The 2% are probably people who just got a valuation for one reason or another. So most people don't know. And it's why we need to start thinking about this, right? If you're working a corporate job, you're paying attention to your 401k, maybe you're meeting with your financial advisor, you're trying to understand how much money you need to save for retirement. But as business owners, and I'm right there with you as a business owner, we don't do this. Um, so we're going to talk through. Next slide. We'll talk through real world examples. We're going to talk through what makes a business valuable and then what a sale process looks like. Um, I hope to get through this in like 20 minutes and save a bunch of time for Q&A, maybe a little bit longer. We have about 20 slides to go. And then feel free to just drop questions in the chat as we're moving along. I was really impressed by the questions that um, Jeff and Martha forwarded me. So I think some of the material is mildly advanced, but we'll see, and we'll talk through it. Okay, so I wanted to start with a case study of a commercial cleaning business. I got the BSC acronym yesterday from the team, so I just wanted to show that I'm learning with you all. But this was a really great business. They had $1.4 million in adjusted cash flow. So that's your cash flow plus any kind of discretionary owner expenses that we're putting through the business. We can talk about that more, but it's essentially what's the owner taking home at the end of the year after all the expenses, including their salary, including their car payments and their kid's cell phone bill or what have you. Um, we listed the business at $4.5 million. At the beginning, I'm just at the top right here. At the beginning, we were aware that there was customer concentration, and the bookkeeping was only done once a year. So that lowered the multiple, right? $1.4 million in adjusted cash flow might be able to fetch a higher valuation than this. Not ridiculously higher, but higher. But there were these fundamental things that the business was really reliant on one customer, and their books just weren't that clean. These things combined led to a lower multiple. Um, Quick timeline of the company. They were founded in 2015. In 2020, they got a key customer, a really key customer, and 24 locations. They continued to grow in 2023. And in 2025, they were looking pretty good. We engaged Baton. We had, I think, like 30 buyer seller meetings. We had 556 people look at the listing. The average, and we'll talk about this later, the average just to like get a sold business is 260. So this business really outperformed our standards and was really appealing. Again, these commercial cleaning companies are great businesses. I'd say, compared to the other small business owners that we talk to, I would pat yourselves on the back because you're in a good, appealing industry, or at least you are for our buyers and what we see. Um, and then this past July, we got 15 offers and we signed an LOI with the buyer that we thought was the best. Again, this is a ridiculous amount of formal offers that we received on the business. We were feeling pretty good. Um, and then through the um, diligence processes are really tough, right? This is the fun part where you're getting interest in negotiating. Diligence is when you say, hey, we like this buyer, we want to move to a sale with them. Um, so we're in diligence, we're kind of unpacking all the different things about the business, asking more questions, and then also trying to get financing. The buyer's trying to get financing. Um, and we found that the customer concentration was heavier than we thought. The way the books were done was just strange, and I think they're really what it was like an incompetent bookkeeping and accounting team, and the key customer would not guarantee that the contract would continue. Um, this led the buyers to stop the sale and kill the deal. And we, through a lot of talking with the seller, uh, we decided that it didn't make sense to sell unless they could go find some more customers, diversify the revenue streams, and clean up the books. So I'm starting today with a cautionary tale of some things that can kill deals. And you'll hear me refer to this probably multiple times, but the number one thing you can do is get a good accountant and a good bookkeeper to keep your books clean and do that, close your books on a monthly basis. So that's a cautionary tale. Talk about three main things that drive evaluation. Number one is financial performance, right? And that's the most important thing. If I'm buying a business, the thing that I care most about to pay more for the business is how much is the business generating, particularly in cash, right? So how much am I going to be able to take home? That's cash flow. Next is quality of revenue. So, we want to be making a lot of money, but we also want that money to be high quality, right? So that's recurring revenue. And that is also to the example that we just went over. Um, that is revenue from multiple customers. And that is a diverse revenue stream. And then also well-maintained financial records, right? So the revenue quality can seem a lot worse to a potential buyer if you don't have good books. And then third here is owner dependency. So I'm really involved in Baton right now. I'm probably working like 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Maybe just in the chat, who else is working above 40 hours a week? Just say me, or put the amount of hours, brag about the amount of hours that you're working in the business. 40 is part-time. Yeah. Yeah. Chris working about 40 hours. Taro's working super hard. Brad, great. 25 to 30. That's awesome. Faith, too many hours for sure. For sure. Fit 40 to 50, Matt. Yep. So this is thanks guys. This is really common with small businesses, with any business. The owners tend to be working really hard. Carrie's always working, I agree. And the reality is that this makes our businesses less valuable, right? If we can go on vacation and the business continues to run, that's a really appealing business. put yourselves in the shoes of the buyer. It's like if you can buy the same business and not work 40 to 50 to 60, 70, 80 hours a week, that is a better and a more enticing deal. So all of these things drive valuations. There are a lot of other things that drive valuations, but if you come away with this talk with just focusing on these three things, you're going to be in the top 90% of folks who are thinking about selling a business, not operating the business. I've learned a bit about the ISSA, and it seems like also y'all are in good hands. So much of getting these deals done, and we'll talk about some of the fundamentals here in a few, is about building trust, and having clear operating standards. And it seems to me that ISSA members have that. So you have documented standard operating procedures, recurring revenue, all the standard operating procedures make it really easy for buyers to come in and understand how the business works. You all are compliant, which is really important. They're credentials that signify just higher quality and just general reputation, right? So shout out to you all for being a part of this organization. Shout out to Taro on my team for getting us a speaking opportunity here. But I think again, the people in this Zoom are probably on the right path and in the higher percentile of folks. And just by attending this talk, if you're not looking to sell next week and you're here at this talk, you're in good hands, and you're thinking about this the right way. So pats on the back for all of you. Okay. Simple ways to boost your business's value. This is almost like the flip side of the other thing, right? But it's continue to grow your business. Just do the common sense things to build a great business. Prep the basics, organize your profit and loss statement, your service contracts, understand your org chart, your leases, everything that you need. And then address key person risk. So try to uninvolve yourself with the business as much as you possibly can. I have a question from Kenyon. Commercial cleaning company with 100 recurring customers be more attractive than a residential cleaning company with 1,000 recurring customers? That's a great question. Maybe you can never, like, the valuations are a bit of an art and a science, and it's a great question and I think a great push, Kenyon. But it's you know if you could do one or the other, maybe you pick the commercial clients because they're a little bit steadier, right? And it's less work. It's probably less overhead to manage for the same revenue and cash flow while still being generally diverse. But I'm sure you could make an argument that the residential business has an ability to grow that the commercial cleaning business doesn't. It depends on the area. It depends on a lot of different things. And it also depends on kind of your goals for the sale. I know that's not the exact answer you wanted, but the real one is that it depends on a lot of different factors, and we'd have to really pull back all the layers to know. Okay. Cool. So that's on valuations. Happy to answer more valuations. If you put them in the chat, we can get to them in the Q&A as well. But I wanted to go through what a sale process looks like. And I'm also going to give you all Baton's proprietary top secret formula for thinking about deals and selling businesses. So get ready. It's really exciting. Here it is. So I'm being a bit facetious. We do use this framework for every deal, but it's just common sense. The core tension in every deal is that buyers want to minimize the price that they pay, sellers want to maximize it. Buyers want less cash up front, sellers want more, and ultimately they both want to reduce risk, right? Buyers might do this with earnouts, and sellers just want a clean exit. They just want money up front and they want to walk away. Our proprietary framework, and again, I say this joking a bit because it is kind of common sense, but there are four kind of vectors that we think about across every deal. Number one is owner objectives. Two is buyer criteria, then business performance, and then financing ability. So owner objectives is, what does the owner really want to get out of the sale? And it's something for you all to consider as you're on this journey. Buyer criteria is, what is the buyer looking to buy? Buyers generally have like what's called the buy box. So that is something that, it evolves, but it's important to understand. Then is business performance, right? So does the business performance fit within those two things, owner objectives and buyer criteria? And then does all of that lead to an ability to finance the deal, to actually get the deal done? So we're going to break each of these down. Um, any thoughts on discounted cash flow versus multiples of EBITDA as far as what most buyers are using now? Joseph, it's a great question. So that's another valuation question from Joseph, and I'll get into that before we move on to going through kind of the framework. The answer is it depends on the buyer and the size of the business. But generally, and we do when we do free valuations at Baton. That's a plug for Baton, which Tara told me that I had to give. Um, we do every valuation method, and we look at the different methods and weight that based on what we've seen other businesses that look similar do. But generally, also, Joe, these are kind of turn into similar numbers. Discounted cash flow and EBITDA. Again, depends on the industry, depends on the multiples that we're seeing. But generally these things do look somewhat similar in the lower middle market. Um, Discounted cash flow can be better to use, Joseph, if you are growing the business really quickly, or if the business is about to crater because you're losing clients, where multiple of EBITDA or cash flow or adjusted cash flow, which is another form of adjusted EBITDA, is really good if the business is kind of at a steady state, and we can look at the similar comps that we have, so other businesses that have been sold. Um, but so, again, the answer is it depends. Um, but we try to look at both, and the important thing to understand again is like, what is the buyer thinking about that you're engaging with, and what are your objectives in the sale? So segue into owner objectives. Also, Joseph, if I didn't answer that well, feel free to put follow-ups in the chat, and we'll circle back to it, or hold it to the Q&A. Owner objectives. So it's really important to understand what drives the seller to make the deal. As sellers, we should all think about like, why do we want to sell? Are we burnt out? We want to golf more. We are pursuing a new opportunity. We are going to move. So just understanding that will help us just ground ourselves in this process. And it's a process that is really challenging and frustrating. So remembering that motivation, I think, is really important. And then, within that is understanding what's next for you. Are all both really important things just to think through. And then with that, why do you want to sell at the valuation that you want to sell? We hear everything. I have comps here, real and fake. Sometimes they're good comparable, but comps are comparable businesses being sold. And sometimes I hear, hey, I got this valuation. It was done by a professional, and that's great. Other times I hear my cousins, uncles, nephews, nieces, brothers, sister who lives in Alaska sold their business, and it was a similar business to mine, and they made, $20 million. So I want to sell my business for $20 million. That's not a great reason. But it is it is a reason, maybe not that extended, but it is a reason that we hear. We also hear the reason of, hey, I have $800,000 in debt, and I spent $200,000 to start the business. So I want to sell the business for $1 million. And we say you having debt is not a great reason to justify a valuation. So it's always important to understand like why is it the price? Why is this the price that you want? And then as owners, what we can do is try to back that up in data. And all of these answers and how we think about it and what we want next will all inform the deal structure. And we'll talk about kind of the common levers for deal structure and what common deals look like. So I also put this here, just like why deals fall apart on Baton. A lot of sellers just back out because they're realize that this is going to be more work, and they're not ready, and they're not getting the market feedback. Another just didn't like the offer or the buyers, another big reason. And then finally, and we tried, this is all on Baton. We do work to correct financials up front. We are not bookkeepers. We do our best. This number is getting a lot smaller, but it's still really common that deals will fall apart like the one you saw before of some finding in diligence or some incorrect financials. Again, just stressing the importance of having really good books. And good books also means good tax returns. Your tax return is really, really important. Your tax return has a profit and loss statement. That is what most people will try to get loans off of. So it is important not only to have good books, but to be able to back that up with tax returns. Next is buyer criteria. So we just went over the owner objectives. Next is understanding what buyers are looking for. This is just on Baton. This is the kind of buying power. So we do have a lot of people that look for tech businesses. We don't sell that many tech businesses. But you can see kind of where you all stand. It's like, these businesses are really attractive. It's like these professional services, building services, are all in the top half. And there's another long tail that isn't in this presentation. Um, then next is I wanted to show you all what buyers say they want to buy versus what buyers actually do. So for businesses, and this is cash flow, this is cash flow ranges. For business doing under 100 to under 250K, they say they want to do a 2x multiple, but in reality, we've been able to get them up to a 2.6. And then just on the flip side, people say they want to do 4.1 multiple. This is just again on average for businesses doing over $1.5 million in cash flow. So kind of like these bigger businesses that we've sold. But we've been able to get them up to 4.3. And I think we'll continue to be able to push this higher as we do bigger and bigger deals. But you can just kind of see the range. Again, this is like directionally accurate. So if you're like, oh man, like I really want to sell my business. Oh, that's a little typo right there. But if I really want to, I'm doing a 750K and I want to sell my business for 4 times. Doesn't mean that it's impossible. You should still get a valuation, but this is just kind of some directional data for you all. Um, our average deal size is $1.4 million. Generally, what this looks like is buyers put down 10% of their own money. Then they take an SBA loan, an SBA 7A loan. This is a government-backed loan specifically for business acquisitions out to buy the business. And then they use seller financing. Seller financing is when you, as the seller, hold some debt. So you get paid back on this note over the span of the period. And then an earnout, we typically don't do earnouts, but we have done them before. An earnout is a incentive-based performance. So we say, hey, we're going to give you, as the new owners, we'll give you $100,000 if we hit $10 million in revenue next year. That's an example of an earnout. Our standard deal structure doesn't have that, but it is a lever to pull, and we'll talk more about that with you. I won't go through all these, but there are a bunch of different buyer criterias to understand. Again, with someone buying your business, the important thing to understand is like, why do you want to buy the business? What were you thinking about before you bought this business? What's your background? Why do you want to grow this? All of that is going to inform the types of deals that they'll make and will make you better at negotiating and maybe collaborating with your business broker or your M&A advisor if you choose to go that route. So our funnel, even before this, we work with everybody to get a free valuation. We talk them through that valuation, and then we prep them to go to market. All of that can take about a month to a month and a half. And we do work to get the listing live and market the business really well. So from launching a listing to going under contract, this is what the average kind of sold business looks like. This takes 60 days. So we usually get 260 buyers looking at the funnel. Then we get, about 12 people engaging, asking questions, and then 4 making offers. And then we enter into the diligence period, the dreaded diligence period. Again, everything up to here is pretty fun because people are engaging. They're telling you that you're great. Maybe you get 4 offers, so we're negotiating the deal up a little bit. And then we're in the diligence period and it's horrible. And you're with one buyer, you feel really deep in the process. They're trying to get financing. They're also asking you a ton of questions. And it's just a lot of work and really high stress and no way around it. You could have the best broker or M&A advisor in the world. You're going to be really involved in this process. So it's just, it is grueling. Usually it takes about 110 days for us. And then we can close these deals, but we've seen deals stretch longer. We've seen some deals shorter, but it's a pain. And then as a buyer, it can take anywhere from 12 to 36 months just to find a business and close on it if you're doing it really seriously and you're good at what you do. But I think the stat is out of the 100% of people that say they want to buy a business, only 2% actually do. Moving on to business performance. Anthony, I see your question. I'll get to it in the Q&A. I think it's great for the Q&A. Moving on to business performance. So I just wanted to show another case study for a floor cleaning company. So we do have experience in this space. They were doing $940,000 in seller's discretionary earnings, SDE. That's another way of saying adjusted EBITDA or adjusted cash flow. They all generally mean the same thing. Again, you're just trying to see how much money is the business owner taking home. If you're getting a good valuation, they should help you find those things. And this was like a clear articulation of financials. Ended up we had an LOI that fell out, but we ended up putting it back together. So in April 2025, we launched the business. We had 7 buyer seller meetings. We had 4 LOIs submitted. So again, kind of the standard, but this is pretty good, especially really good conversion from the 7 to the 4. We had the first LOI signed at $3.5 million. But then ended up finding that we didn't love the buyer that we were working with. So we killed this deal. And then we repapered it with a new buyer. We went through a quality of earnings process. It's QOE. A lot of buyers will do that at some point in diligence. We listed the business at 3.09, so about 3.1. And then last month we closed this deal at 3.2. So this was just an example of a business that continued to perform really well, that had really good books, and we were able, despite the deal falling apart, we were able to quickly put it back together. This is a nice story, and it's why, the most important thing is just continue to have the business perform well. A good M&A advisor will have some tricks up their sleeve to make sure that you're continuing to monitor business performance and that you have enough time to work at the business to make sure things aren't falling apart while you're selling the company. We do weekly diligence meetings, for example. Okay, finally moving on to financing. This is the last section. We don't have that many slides, so hopefully y'all are still here. I know this is the most exciting topic ever. So just on Baton, a lot of our buyers want to use an SBA 7A loan, again, government-backed loan for business acquisitions. Half of them want to use seller financing at some level. 80% bring their own cash, 30% have investor equity, and then there's a long tail of other things. The things to know here is that how the buyer wants to finance the deal will impact how you structure that deal. And that's a good thing to know from the beginning, right? If somebody says, hey, I'm going to do an SBA loan, that means you probably won't do an earnout. You'll probably do some small portion of seller financing, but not a ton, right? If somebody says they're going to use investor equity, that means that you should get a good amount of money up front, but they might want to do more seller financing. And then the other piece is if they are going to a third party, and most people do, that means that there are going to be stricter timelines, requirements, and third-party involvement. Anytime there's third-party involvement, it stinks because there's somebody else making decisions, and you might be held up on their timeline. But it does happen. It's good to know. It's rare to find a buyer with committed capital or somebody who has the money to do this themselves. But if you do, hold on tight and move quickly. So just deal levers. There are really 3 things that we think about, right? As owners, we're trying to maximize cash up front. We're trying to be over here. As buyers, we'd rather have... Actually, is anyone looking to buy a business? Is anyone looking to grow through acquisition? Just put me if you are in the chat. Okay, cool. Nice. Okay, nice. Great. Okay, so we do have some buyers. That's great. So as buyers, our ideal is we don't put any cash up front, right? So, I'll go to Carrie, who says she wants to sell her business at some point, and I'll say, Carrie, I'll buy your business, but I'm not going to pay you anything today. And if you do $10 million in revenue next year, I'll give you $1 million. Carrie, I'm kidding. I know if you have a good advisor, they'll say absolutely not. Um, but I'll say I'll give you $1 million next year, and then $1 million next year if if you continue to do that well. Um, and then Carrie will say, no, that's crazy. And I'll say, okay, I'll do a little bit of cash up front. Um, but I want to do some seller financing, which means, hey, I have $100,000 that I can give you right now, but uh, I'm gonna need to pay you back the other $900,000 to get to your $1 million over the next 10 years. And you'll get some interest on that, and I'll keep paying you back. And that's it. Of course, there's some risk that I stop paying, that I file bankruptcy, and then maybe you end up running the business again, which I'm sure you wouldn't want to do. So all of these different structures have risk, and it depends on kind of the percent of the deal that's going into these different things. There are other structures that are much more complicated. I don't get into that. I don't trade in complicated structures. I try to keep it simple as possible, unless we absolutely have to. All right. So some key takeaways. If you come away with anything, if you're not looking to sell within the next month, just keep building a great business, build a scalable business. You will sell your business for more. Next is take a vacation, find a way to take a vacation, build systems so that you can take time off. That's going to make your business more and more valuable. Don't do it at the expense of destroying your company, but if you can, that's great. And then track your valuation, keep clean books, keep clean tax returns, and start these conversations sooner than later. There's no reason not to. Maybe you have a lawyer that you work with, you have an accountant that you work with. There's no reason not to work with someone who's thinking about your business valuation and forming those relationships earlier than later. It's people's job to do this. Okay. Um, I hate doing plugs for Baton, but again, Tara said that I have to, or else he's gonna yell at me. Um, we boast an industry-leading close rate for businesses that sell within our process. Nobody else, if you look at all our folks, nobody else is gonna put their close rate on their website. We do. We stand by this. Other brokers, they might tell you over the phone that they're higher than this. Generally, it's not true. Um, but again, we just care about certainty, right? The thing that matters is that we actually do a good job selling our business. Um, Next is we give free valuations and confidential listings for free. So you can start to kind of gauge buyer interest at different valuations and just learn. It takes like 10 minutes. You can go to batonmarket.com and get a valuation for free today. You're going to have somebody who is in our New York City office reach out to you once you do and work with you on understanding your valuation. And then we have over 15,000 buyers, but the 4,000 number is folks interested in commercial cleaning businesses. So we have 4,000 people that are interested in your business. So that's my pitch on Baton. But really, I'm just happy to be here and talking to you all. I love this stuff, and I think Jeff kind of got into it in the beginning, but this is a mission for us. I want to make sure that small business legacies live on. That not everything is sold to private equity. Well, that could be a great option. But I think it's important. For small business owners, for entrepreneurs, but also for America. I'm a lot less interested in living in a world where everything is owned by the same big box companies and private equity. And I'm more interested in living in beautiful, vibrant communities with a bunch of small businesses. So that's why we do it. Okay. I think we're ready for the Q&A.
Nice job, Dylan.
Thanks,
Where is
Jeff.
that place where it's all small businesses? Sounds like utopia.
I know we're gonna build it. Baton Land.
All right. So you did cover a lot of the questions in the chat as we went through that. I put down a few that I think we might not have hit, and we have other questions that came in as well separately. So we have a good 15 minutes. You ready to tackle some of these?
Let's do it.
All right. So and if we already covered this, make sure you mention that. So there's one on are there any current rules of thumb for under $3 million businesses as to multiples of EBITDA or multiples
Yep.
of revenue?
Yeah.
That was in the chat. Did you see that one?
Yeah. Anthony, 100 under $3 million of rev of I'm assuming EBITDA, like that's a you could be a good business, of course. $0 to $3 million is a big range. Um, Generally, you're looking at somewhere between 1 to 5 times cash flow. If it's a really big business, we can maybe push up a little bit above that. The smaller the business is, the lower the multiple is going to be generally. And then same thing with all the other factors that we talked about. What's the customer concentration? Do you have clean books? Do you have key person risk? Um, all of those things will play a role. If you're doing $3 million in cash flow and EBITDA, I'm thinking, hopefully we could get you to the like 4 to 5 plus range. But it just depends. And also, I mean, the other thing that I'll say on all of this is it is an art and a science. It's a bit less like selling a home. There are a lot of parallels to selling a home, but the where it differs is a lot of homes sell all the time. And they look similar, right? Where businesses look very different from each other. So the most important thing is to say, hey, like let's use the data that we have to set a valuation. Let's set something that's within your goals, right? So if you want to sell now, maybe we're selling closer to 4x. If you're saying, hey, I'm down to wait a little bit, let's get some market feedback and we can always adjust, then, maybe we push close to that 5x. And then also deal structure plays a big role into that as well.
All right. Now, Ryan asked the question, how does SDE account for funding growth?
Brian, do you want to come on the speaker and maybe just
I
explain that
don't
a
know
little
if
bit?
Ryan can do that.
Ah,
Ryan,
okay.
type into the chat if there's a clarification. And while he does that, Carrie asked this question. This is a fun one. What taxes do we consider after the sale of the company?
You're taxed at capital gains, but there are a lot of great things you can do and that you can set up now. The government's actually like pretty good to small business owners if you have a good tax accountant. So I would work. We have a lot of folks that I'm happy to refer you all to. But there are things you can do with trusts to really minimize your tax burden. So you should talk to your accountant, and there's like no time too soon to start planning for that.
All right. So we're going to do something we've never really done on a webinar that I know of. We're going to unmute Ryan. So, Ryan, can you hit the
Oh,
audio and talk
yes.
to us?
Can you guys hear me?
All right. Ask your question. Go ahead.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so for instance, we're in a current state of past couple of years, 10, 20, 25% growth year over year. If we're constantly self-funding that growth, how does that equate when you're looking at cash flow? At the end of the year,
Nice.
we may not have really good cash flow because throughout the year we've had to fund, equipment, new managers, all that crazy stuff to support that growth.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great question. And also Baton's in the same boat, so I feel you. Um, when you're getting a valuation, and it's a good idea to get one so you can start talking through it. Hopefully a lot of those things can be adjusted out. So like some of those one-time expenses, hey, we paid $1 million for a big piece of equipment. We bought a bunch of trucks. These things will be in the business for the next 10, 20 years. Um, Hopefully you can adjust that out to get to a true cash flow number. If you're hiring managers, might be harder to adjust. And ultimately, people are going to pay for the business performance that they've seen, not what you're saying they will see. So the big equipments, the expenditures, hopefully you can adjust out. But some of the other like new operating expenses that you're taking on, my advice to you is, hey, let the business run, and then just show that growth.
All right. Thanks, Dylan. So, yeah, if anyone else wants to ask a question, raise your hand. We can unmute you. But we have another one here sent in earlier. This is a fun one, right, or Dylan. If a buyer shadowed an operation for a month, what single metric would convince them to pay a premium rather than try to negotiate the price down?
I would never let a buyer shadow an operation for a month. Um,
Oh, but
business,
they want to. Okay, why not?
um, Owning a business is so hard, especially one that does cleaning is so hard. Um, and a month is a really long time. There's really no reason why a buyer should need to spend that amount of time trying to see what's going on in the business. If I was negotiating that deal and that the buyer asked for that, I'd say, "Hey buyer, hey Jeff, like why do you want to shadow the business for a month?" And you might say, "Oh, I want to learn about the operations." I'd say, "Great, Carrie's going to be happy to show you around the business." And you can see the operations in half a day. We're going to say that you're a consultant, so nobody gets spooked that the business is going to change hands, right? That's a consideration. And then Carrie's done a pretty good job documenting her operating procedures, so we're going to give you that. And I think, again, so I would never let someone shadow for a month. People have asked that. People have been like, "Hey, I want to work in the business for 3 months." I'm like, "You're just trying to see if you want to own this business or not." And like, that's not the game we're playing, and that's not fair. And that's a lot of work for the seller and really exhausting. Um,
So as we're going to go to Carrie next, her hand is up. But here's the thing. I'd love to hear from other people in the chat. Would you let someone shadow your business for a month?
please say no because I just told you all you should say no.
That's exactly right. But okay, they're going to agree with you, Dylan. You got better hair. All right, let's go to Carrie.
But really quick, just to answer that question, in it like when someone's in the business looking at it, I think making it as simple as possible will increase the chance that you can get a deal done. Making it seem like you aren't running around, making sure things are just clean, right? You want to step into a clean operation. I mean, this is a cleaning business, so hopefully that comes through. All those things are really important, and I think can make it easier to sell the
All
business.
right, Carrie, go ahead.
Good morning.
Morning, afternoon.
Um, oh, for me, it's morning.
Okay.
Good afternoon to you. My question, you know, if I would like to sell the business within 10 years, doing this valuation, is this something that's just a start and it's something that you work with the customer, or they're like, we're for sure going to sell, because in order to like show you like, are the SOPs good enough? Is my books good enough? Is that the type of stuff that you will do?
We will give some advice on that. We don't currently get super deep in the weeds 10 years out. We will at some point. We're really ambitious. We're raising a bunch of venture capital to take on things like that, but we don't do that today. We focus on the valuation and we talk through the valuation. And then we kind of remind you, hey, come back and continue to refresh that. So it's kind of on autopilot. And then you can see the types of buyers that are interested in your business as well. Um,
Okay, so quickly, and then I don't want to take up your time. Are there people that help with those, with the getting ready, like making
yes.
sure your business is ready?
They're great people, and we have connections to a lot of them. So similarly, like super happy to maybe I'll drop some of the resources here, Jeff. But also, if all of you, if you get valuations on Baton, you'll also have access to those resources.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Carrie, if you come up with another question, you can unmute, raise your hand. Taro just sent a message. Dylan, he said that Joseph had a question we missed. Uh-oh. It's can client concentration risk be offset by the institutional nature of the larger clients and demonstrable long-term retention?
Totally. Yes. I'm like, that is better, right? If you can show that these clients keep coming back, they're blue chip clients, and I know we only have one or two or three of them, but they're really solid. That is good. That's better. That offsets some of the risk. But I will say that example that we gave, it was a very blue chip client. All of you would know the name of this client, and it still wasn't able to get done because that blue chip client couldn't guarantee that with the new owner, they were going to stay. So it's better to have a diverse client base, but there are lots of things that you can do to offset that risk, and also deal structures, right? Like if you do have a lot of risk, but hey, Joseph, you feel really confident that this client is going to continue to stay with the company and you're willing to kind of, continue to manage the relationship a little bit, stay a little involved in the business. Maybe you do a deal that has some earnout component or some component of seller financing that will help get the buyer more comfortable. Of course, that's scarier for us as the business owner. It's not as good, but it's okay. And it's, something we've done before.
Thanks, Dylan. If anyone else has a question they'd like to ask, raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm going to go. We have 5 more minutes. We have another question sent in earlier, Dylan. How does it work trying to sell a company that does specialty work, such as floor cleaning, window washing, not contract janitorial?
Works really well.
Does
Um,
it?
I mean, like so you saw that with the care business that we did. Um, I think it's the concern could be if I'm a buyer, hey, are there other folks that I can hire to do this work? So you might feel some questions around that, but if you can answer those questions, if you can show that you have an employee base that's gonna stay there and a way to get new employees in, I think it's just as good and maybe even better. It just depends than maybe a more common type of business.
Yeah, because some of these they don't have contracts. They just work by customer calls when it's time to have something done.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Kenyon, that's a great question. I do not have an answer for that.
The healthy net profit.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. We do have a lot of comps. So it's something that I could send out to the group. But I don't have an answer to that today.
So you're going to research that and get back?
Yeah, no
That's the
problem.
deal.
I
Okay.
have a lot of follow-ups now.
You
Taro's
do.
keeping track. Taro's gonna do it.
Luis da Costa raised his hand. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. So I believe all of us have seen on LinkedIn or other platforms, people probably hired by the buyers that bash the adjusted EBITDA. They say this is BS and this and that. It should be gross profit and no more than 2 times. And I really have a hard time agreeing with that because, of course, adjusted EBITDA is fair. Although to their credit, I would say, of course, there's a lot of crap that can be hidden there. But that's why you have due diligence. That's why you should have clean books and everything. So just tell us about your impression about adjusted EBITDA and the resistance to that methodology on the part of the buyers.
Louise, you said it perfectly. I mean, I think that is the truth is if you can have clean books and back up the adjustments because you have clean books, that puts you in a better spot. If you don't have clean books, it becomes a lot harder and the deal is a lot riskier to the buyer, understandably so. The other piece with that is most of these deals, at least that Baton does, are done using the SBA 7A loan, right? You all saw that before. Um, the lenders use the tax return to underwrite that business, right? So they're looking at what is the cash flow on the tax return. So sometimes if you're showing you're not making any money, again, you can go to the lender and say, look at these adjustments, and some of them are valid, and that's okay. Um, but it makes it harder for the buyer to go get the amount of money that they need to finance the deal. So that is the time when the buyer has a leg to stand on. They're like, look, I went to all these lenders. They don't want to do the deal at this price. I can't get it financed, right? And that's, you think about the four criteria: owner objectives, buyer criteria, business performance, and financials. It's like the business or financing, the business performance doesn't support the financing needs of the business. So that means that either, or really most likely, the owner objectives need to change. So, it's all, and again, it's just why it's good to plan some of these things and also go in with an open mindset and if you can, a low ego, because, you will learn in the sale process. Hopefully you learn that your business is amazing, but it's not always the case.
We've had some really good questions, Dylan.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been good. We're out of time, so it's time to wrap it up. Thank you all for being here. Dylan will follow up, or he'll make Taro do it.
That's right. That's right.
Dylan, any words of advice as we close it out? You get the last word. Go ahead.
Clean books, clean books, clean books. Keep building great businesses. And we're here to help. My email is dylan@batonmarket.com. Taro's email is taro@batonmarket.com. You can feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. And then yeah, if you want a valuation, we're happy to do it. You don't need to sell, no pressure, and it takes 10 minutes. That's all. This was
Thank
really
you,
fun.
Dylan.
Thanks
We'll
for the
see
great questions,
everyone on the
everyone.
other side of their business being sold.